and it's giving them the creeps. John E.L. Tenney is a paranormal researcher, and he says that during the pandemic, people have been flooding his inbox with reports of ghosts and other paranormal activity. We reached Mr. Tenney in Detroit, Michigan.
John, are things going bump in the night at your house these days?
As a paranormal researcher, things are always going bump in the night at my house.
Yes, so nothing exceptional during the lockdown.
Nothing exceptional. Being a researcher in this field for as long as I've been, my house is actually fairly safe and secure so that if anything ever tried to follow me home, it wouldn't get inside.
Okay. Well, I'll ask you later how you do that. But being a paranormal researcher, you're getting a lot of people flooding your inboxes with their own stories, I guess.
Yeah, very much so. It seems that this quarantine has led people to really pay attention to their environment and their homes. And I've seen an enormous spike in people who think that their house is haunted or that they're living with a ghost.
What kind of stories are you getting?
You know, everything from typical knocks and footsteps in the hallway to some very new, strange occurrences like people hearing whispered voices through their television sets or getting text messages from long-deceased friends and relatives.
Uh-huh. I mean, what do you make of this?
Well, you know, there's a number of factors. If we're going to allow or believe that ghosts exist, then people are seeing an uptick of ghosts. Like I said, they're in a heightened emotional state. They've been sequestered. They're spending time in their house, which they normally don't do at certain hours. You know, most people are gone at work, and so they're not used to hearing the pops and creaks in their house normally. But if there are ghosts, perhaps they've had a ghost in their house all along, and they've just never noticed it.
Is it possible that the ghosts themselves are getting more active given that these people are at home all day long?
Yeah, if ghosts are the way that we traditionally think about them, which is, you know, we're once people, then perhaps the ghosts are getting bored too, and they're making themselves a little more known to the people that they're not commonly used to seeing at all hours of the day and night. So they could be spiking up their activity too. Perhaps, you know, with ghosts, they always seem to have been lonely, and now they have company all the time.
And maybe they don't want that company. I mean, some of the reports that I was seeing in this New York Times article, this sounds quite annoying, like little petty things of doors slamming and towels on the floor and rattling the shades and things. I mean, maybe it's a message that they just want to be left alone in these houses.
It's possible. You know, in my lectures, though, a lot of times I talk about the fact that as human beings, we have difficulty communicating and discerning the motives of other living human beings that are right in front of us. So for us to try and divine what the intention is of an ethereal, invisible being that we can't really see, they might just be trying to get attention.
Is it possible, so I guess on the other hand, is that people being confined and seeing no one are just going a little nuts?
Yeah. One of the things that I tell people to do a lot is if they do think that they have a ghost or something in their house, journal about it. Keep track of when it happens, because the majority of cases that I investigate over the past 30 years have had a natural solution to them. But yes, you know, people, a very large percentage of people in the United States and in Canada have separation anxiety, which can trigger hypersensitivity. And so people might be going a little crazy right now.
Now, how often do you actually, when you investigate something paranormal, do you actually find something that's there?
I would say going through the past 30 years, I've investigated thousands of cases, and there are probably maybe less than 100 where something really unique and strange is happening.
I mean, do you ever get like the genuine kind of Ghostbusters ghosts, like kind of like free-floating things like that, kind of spooky with vaporous tails to them and stuff like that? Do they
there are. I have had, you know, situations where I've seen strange colored mists floating around a room or through a cemetery, that you do kind of get sometimes what would be traditionally spooky-looking ghost, but sometimes it's almost so typical that it's hard to believe you're looking at something that's cloaked with a skeleton-like face. Your mind just says, oh, that's got to be something from a movie. It's got to be something I'm imagining. And so when you have an experience where someone says, oh, I'm seeing a very spooky movie-like ghost or apparition, spirit, or whatever you want to call it, you have to wonder how much their mind is playing into how they perceive their reality. We do see when there are times of crisis. I saw a spike like this before, right at the Y2K in 1999. There was another minor spike around 9/11. Times of stress really do something to human psychology, and so you see people having deeper, stranger dreams. I haven't even had an increase in UFO reports since the quarantine, and that might just be because people go outside and look up at the sky and have time to reflect. It doesn't mean so much that they're going crazy, but perhaps they're just becoming a little more introverted and perhaps getting to know themselves a little better.
And would you tell people to be receptive to these experiences?
I would. I think that our world is so strange. You should have as many weird experiences as possible. I also think that once you open yourself up to a weird experience, you start to have more of them. And so I would. The majority of cases that I've ever investigated, people don't get hurt. It's not scary. It's startling, but it's not scary. But I think that if ghosts are here, they're a part of our environment, and we should get to know them.
All right. I'm going to leave it there, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
John E.L. Tenney is a paranormal researcher. We reached him in Detroit, Michigan. And you can find more on that story on our website, cbc.ca/AIH. This might make you look at plants differently, and more ominously, it may also make plants look at you differently. Scientists in Germany wanted to figure out exactly how it is that some plants, which you'd think would be the world's strictest vegans, were able to turn carnivorous. Venus flytraps with their snapping leaf jaws, or pitcher plants with their enticing pools that digest stray insects alive. Fascinating specimens. Also, terrifying. And now, terrifyinger. The results of that German study have just been published. After sequencing the genomes of several meat-loving plants, the scientists discovered a few things. One, the plants all share a common ancestor that lived about 60 million years ago. Neat. But that is the past. Here's the future. Quote, "The path to carnivory seems to be open for all plants." All plants. Let's digest that together. What they're saying is that any plant of any size or dietary preference has the necessary genetic material to make the move from plant to predator and develop its own ingenious hunting style. Essentially, a plant can rewire, say, root cells to become stomach cells. And if a plant can do that, you might find it eating your green thumb. So I'm just going to plant this little seed. Eat your vegetables. It may be the only chance we've got. Here's Grimes with Flesh Without Blood. And it's giving them the